looking downfield, watching downfield, going for it all. It is close. There's Williams. Speed's killed. A big play. And a stiff arm. George Kittle. Flag fly. And Manning's going to hit one. There's a flag. Back to
Ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, welcome to Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan, right here on the Fantasy Football Network, coming to you every Monday evening until week 1 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Sather. Tonight, my guest is a self-aware football fan recognizing the absurdity of the game we all love to watch. He is a writer, podcaster, and live streamer for Football Absurdity. He's also in my top 3 for favorite San Francisco 49ers fans of all time. Please welcome to the show, Jeff Krisko. Jeff,
hello.
So glad to finally have you back with us. I know I wanted to get you on a few months ago, but then you happen to have a domestic situation to have to deal with at home. I think something involving a backyard fence having to get fixed, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I'm the way my house is situated, I'm at a lower grade than the neighbors behind me, and some of our retaining wall fence just popped right out, so I had to go take care of that. So I appreciate the flexibility. I'm really excited to be here. I wish that I was in my own top 3 favorite 49ers fans, but hey, what are you gonna do? But thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, it's finally good to talk to you too. I know we've been following each other on Bluesky for a while, so it's finally nice to put a face to the name too. It's been. Yeah, so I did mention the top 3 favorite San Francisco 49ers fans. So the other one is our teammate, Phil Ruskin here, who also does the extra point. And then I had to work in Sourdough Sam. He's just such a cool mascot, you know, being one of my favorite 49ers fans. But so ladies, folks, this is this show's a bit somber for somebody like me, as no more than about 6 hours ago, I did have to put down one of my pets earlier today. But I did not want to have to cancel this show because we are in Scott Fish Bowl season. It's a good way to take things off of my mind. I'm going to get into my sweet beloved Hita, the cat, at the end of the show. But for right now, we're going to have some fun with a Scott Fish Bowl mock draft. But before we do that, Jeff, so you've been doing Football Absurdity for quite some time. You've been doing quite a lot of good work for them, even in the off season. Where, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you just released the latest podcast episode on the website that everybody should check out. What can folks expect as a sneak preview with the NFC East here?
So with the NFC East, my co-host Walker Kelly, Mike Valverde, and I, we each take a team, and then you're going, Jeff, there's 4 teams in the division. Yes, we split up the last team. I took the New York Football Giants, and I came away more enthusiastic about Cam Scatterboo for more reasons than I thought I would be. Sneaky caught a lot of passes last year. And we're all very excited about the Dallas Cowboys this year. Very straightforward offense, though. Not falling for the Ryan Flanoy hype. But we do it. We do it every week, every other episode on the Patreon, which if folks on the screen, you see the Patreon up at the top. We're starting the AFC next week. We go through position by position, break it down. I was bullied out of writing 4,000 words per team last year. But the scripts are hefty. The discussions are good. And, you walk away with a good idea of what to do top to bottom with each team.
Yeah, the NFC East is pretty well loaded with superb offensive talent, unlike some other divisions, AFC North. But that's gonna be I mean, I'll definitely have to give this a listen too, as I've had quite a lot going on over the weekend. I haven't had the chance yet, as I mentioned. Well, I had to deal with a sick kitty cat that we had to put out of her misery. But in the meantime, yeah, this is good. I actually had to look up Scadaboo's receiving numbers when you mentioned him, and I'm blown away to actually see that you're right about this. He's had games where he's had 8 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets. It seemed like every other week he's like the focal point of the offense. That's how bad the Giants were last year.
Yeah, and the only question is how's it going to look with Malik Neighbors and with the new offense as well, but especially because John Harbaugh, like Matt Nagy's the OC there, but Greg Roman's the special assistant, so it's really like it's going to be Greg Roman's offense. So I'm really curious to see how they roll it forward, but at the same time, I'm very concerned about Malik Neighbors' knee, especially because there was the video at the charity wiffle ball or softball game, I forget which one it was, and almost at the same exact time they signed 3 wide receivers off the scrap heap, and the quotes, I mentioned this in the podcast, but the quotes from both the GM and the head coach are saying that they hope he's back week 1, and that's the plan, at least, stuff like that, and it's making me a little nervous, which does lead into there's not really a whole lot else there other than Isaiah Likely than Scadaboo. And so it's one of those things where Scadaboo is already back at camp doing 11 on 11. Well, camp's over, but doing 11 on 11, he's capital B back. And I don't see any reason why he can't just pick up where he left off from last year.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, you'll definitely have to convince me with Scadaboo as well, because I was convinced the Giants were going to go grab a Jeremiah Love somehow, but yeah, he didn't fall their way anyway, so yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just too low on Scadaboo, but if the Giants fans, especially our good friend and teammate Mike Herrick here at the Fantasy Football Network, if they're lucky, they definitely want to have Greg Roman really calling the shots behind the scenes over Matt Nagy, because we Bears fans know all too well, running back draws, wide receiver flat routes, that's all you're going to get with Matt Nagy. Horrible offense. Good luck, Giants fans. You're going to need it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it takes a special skill to make Patrick Mahomes look normal, and that's what Matt Nagy does. So he's a official op of the Football Absurdity podcast. Matt Nagy is not a fan.
Well, as we're getting into the mock draft here, let's go over the scoring real quick for those of you who either haven't seen this yet or forgot. This is the season of big bonuses for passing, rushing, receiving. You're going to get 10 points even for 20-yard receiving plays, which is going to put a lot more value on anybody who's really good at catching the football compared to running and passing. So, and it's tight end premium. So that's going to immediately increase tight end value, which is not necessarily reflected in the ADP here, but I mean, with Sleeper's ADP, you just do the best you can. It's Scott Fishbowl. You grab your guy and then you go for it and hope that everything just works out just mighty fine and swell. But I don't think we should keep the people waiting too much longer. Jeff, are you ready, my friend?
I am ready.
Let's do it. I'm going to hit the start button, and we are going to kick things off here with Fleshmo6, hoping I said your name correctly, good person. So 30 seconds per clock just for the sake of the show. Yeah, ooh, okay. So we are now starting at the 101 with Puka Nacua. That's a first. I have never seen Puka Nacua go 101 in any of the mock drafts we've ever done on this show. Jeff, are you reaching for a Puka Nacua in Scott Fishbowl, or do you think that's a good idea?
Not number 1. I mean, number 1, I'm probably going with a Trey McBride or a Brock Bowers. More than likely Trey McBride. Puka, I mean, it's the first down bonus for him. I think that does it. And also the 20-yard plays. He does chunk those off with fair frequency, but I wouldn't have gone 101 there. Like I said, I'm probably going to go McBride just because, at 101, you're going to need to get an elite tight end in this format, and you're not going to have one when you come back. Like your goal should be to get an elite tight end, a high volume, big play tight end like Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, even Tucker Kraft in this format.
Yeah, and as speaking of which, we're already starting to see the tight ends go.
Yep.
As Worf 69 is going to pick in front of you. As you're making your next pick, I'll just mention that Trey McBride and Brock Bowers are already gone. In between some of the quarterbacks, being that this is ultra flex, we still have 2 super flex slots, so quarterbacks definitely do matter, but I don't know if I'm grabbing one in the first round this year. I mean, maybe other people in my division will try, but that's remains to be seen here. So tight ends are still kind of far down there in ADP, as you know, Scott Fishbowl mocks are just getting mixed up with normie mocks, and as unfortunately Jeff just ran out of time here, and we end up with Drake May, which, I mean, Jeff, as I was just talking about quarterbacks going in the first round, do you happen to agree with me on that point? Would you reach for somebody like a Drake May here?
Probably not, honestly. I was looking at, I was trying to find Colston Loveland here. The reason that I'm not super bullish on, sorry, I got to make sure I don't lose my guy again. Oh my gosh, Colston Loveland. I'm tilting. I'm officially tilting. The reason that I'm not super excited about a first round quarterback, especially the guys that tend to go in the first round, is the bonus structure, because your guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, those are guys who run and pass. You're not really looking at where they get to the run enough or the pass enough to really hit that bonus structure, you know, where they're getting 300 passing yards or they're getting 100 rushing yards. It's kind of a mix of the two. So I went with my consolation prize here in Tucker Kraft. I believe he'll be back healthy for week 1. So I'll go with Tucker Kraft in the elite tight end ranks. He's a young George Kittle to me.
Despite my hatred for the Green Bay Packers, I would say that is absolutely not a bad consolation prize at all. The Green Bay Packers have not been shy of showing that Kraft is the focal point of their passing offense, just like the Buffalo Bills do with Dalton Kincaid. The Indianapolis Colts are starting to go in that direction with Tyler Warren, too. Now we're starting to see Colston Loveland take a lot of receptions, which a lot of people in the fantasy industry are starting to move Loveland like at tight end 2, possibly above Bowers, possibly above McBride. We have a lot of people who are pretty not tilted, but divided on where tight ends should be ranking at this point. So with the order of the tight ends that went off the board so far, Jeff, do you agree with this order as Warren goes 5th?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, let me try that again. Absolutely 100%. McBride is the tight end 1. He's the best guy there. You're assuming Jacoby Brissett is going to be playing at least a majority of the games. Brock Bowers, I do question with, Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins and the whole new offense coming in, what that's going to look like, though he doesn't have a lot of target competition. Colston Loveland, he's a beast, especially in this format with the big plays. Everybody remembers he's the only guy that had like a breakout play last year where he caught that ball and had, I think it was against the Bengals, 3 or 4 guys bounce off of him for a 70-yard touchdown.
It was so good.
Yeah. And then Tucker Kraft, like he's a monster. He rips off those 20-yard plays with ease, first downs with ease. I agree with this order. Warren might be a little bit high. But honestly, we talk about a lot on the podcast. There's like tiers of tight ends, and take your guy within your tier. I would probably have gone Fan in there just for the point for first down ahead of Warren, but I have no problem with it. Like I said, it's tiers. Get your guy within your tier.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even hate that recommendation to go get Fannin over somebody like a Tyler Warren, because even though Warren, I still think is going to be pretty much the whole passing offense for the Colts, who else is going to be the passing offense for the Browns? It's still going to be Fannin, whether it's Deshaun Watson or, dare I say, Shadur Sanders again throwing the ball.
Yeah, and it's not an offense that's going to be very conducive to long developing plays, just because all the quarterbacks there even if it's Dylan Gabriel, they all tend to panic a little bit. So and they're not the best quarterbacks late in the down where they can, let the play develop, know that the guy's going to be open down there. They're going to freak out and hit their check down, which is going to be Harold Fannin. So I think Fannin's due in for, he might lead the position in targets this year, high volume. The only question is the offense, which is why I would go Loveland or Kraft over Fannin, just because the offensive scheme is better. And they are as integral as Fannin is to their particular scheme.
Most definitely. I'll get to a comment that I forgot to mention earlier as we were talking about Matt Nagy. Classic Mike Carrick on the Fantasy Football Network team, as our resident Giants fan, also hated the Matt Nagy signing. I'm pretty sure most Giants fans paying attention hated that signing as well. We were just talking about how Nagy made Patrick Mahomes look like a normal, unspectacular quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, he made him look human, and that's like that's the kiss of death, I think, for an offensive coordinator, is if you make sorry, I'm trying to talk and pick at the same time. You make Patrick Mahomes look human. I forgot I had Drake May, so now I have two quarterbacks. I'm tilting already. This is out of control. Can we stop and start over? Can we go back in time 15 minutes?
Well, I mean, I don't hate the Dak Prescott pick, though. I'll get to that in a second as soon as I make my next couple of picks here. So let me get let's do it. Let's go Chris Olave, and then let me grab my first quarterback here, which let's do Jalen Hurts, who I think gets too much hate still. But Jeff, as you're about to make your next pick as well, I will mention too, I don't hate Dak Prescott going, which normally goes a little earlier than other quarterbacks, but as your quarterback too, it's a spectacular pick. When he has everybody at full strength, including himself and his receivers, he is top 10 capable. He's getting up there in age, so who knows how much longer that's going to last, but I don't even hate that pick if you wanted to get your quarterbacks out of the way early with 2 superflex slots.
Yeah, and like I said, I my goal, like if I had not gotten knocked off the clock, I would have gone Loveland there, probably taken Burrow in the second round. Honestly, in this kind of format, I do want a guy that is going to throw for 300 yards with fair frequency, and that would be a guy like Joe Burrow or a guy like Dak Prescott, which is why I favored Dak Prescott over Jalen Hurts, because again, the bonuses. Like the bonuses are huge, and I am tilting towards the bonuses, the yardage bonus, and it does push down the dual threat quarterbacks for me quite a bit. Like I don't want to say they're off my board, but there's 0% chance that I'm going to end up with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson where they're going, just because to me that's not they're better fantasy players, but you have to play the format. You have to play the format, which in this format, you're not looking for guys who can kick in 250 passing yards and 80 rushing yards. You need a guy that kicks in 300 passing yards.
Exactly. Your chances for that are a hell of a lot higher considering the format.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably not going to go for like what one of my league mates did last year at the live draft, go all running backs in the live rounds.
No, especially because the running backs got a little bit jobbed on the bonuses. Like I took Derrick Henry for the 100-yard rushing plus receiving bonus, which is actually a fix from the first time they did this. The first time they did this was Scott Fishbowl 9, and it wasn't rushing plus receiving, if I'm remembering correctly. It was rushing or receiving, and a lot of guys didn't hit that threshold despite hitting 100 total yards. But if you look at the big plays, running backs, you have to get 40 yards. Like that's a huge play for rushing, especially compared to 20 yards receiving. That's far more common to get 20 yards receiving on a play than 40 yards rushing, which is fair common sense.
Most definitely, Jeff. And I will say for the record, too, in my home dynasty league as well as my home redraft league, I love the 40-yard bonuses. I do 1 point for every single 40-yard bonus, passing, rushing, and receiving. I wouldn't dare do 1 point for 20 because that would definitely create a little more chaos. But for 1 point for my home leagues, I love doing that. Jeff, how would you feel about that for like your regular, normal home fantasy football leagues?
Well, I need to peel back the curtain on being my longtime home league commissioner. People love to complain. That's the sort of thing that people love to complain about. But, I think it's a fun wrinkle, just to give a little bit extra. It makes me think of back in the day. I used to in my fantasy baseball home league.
10 seconds.
I know. I'm trying to do both.
It's all right.
I'm going Luther Burden. In my fantasy baseball home league, we would have one of the categories would be complete games. And it would just be like, if you get a complete game or two, you're winning the week. It's a nice little cherry on top for picking the extreme right guys. So I have no problem with it. I just know like my home league, I love those guys. I've been with them, for forever, but man, they would complain about that. I would feel out your home league before deciding to do that.
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate that my home leagues people don't complain. I think I happen to get a really good group of guys. I try to keep it to people I know personally in the Chicagoland area, even though most people I know these days don't even live in the state of Illinois, which is, that's just story of my life. But yeah, no, that commissioner is definitely a thankless job that you really have to love to do to get into it, because if you start getting into the more like not so casual hardcore leagues, that's when the complaints really start to go up over every single thing that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, we had people quit over like waiver wire stuff and just little silly things, and you just got, you just have to know your league, and yeah, you just have to know your league. But personally, for me, I'm like, whatever format you want to throw me in, cool. I'm in a golf league. I don't know if you've heard of a golf league, but you have to get as close to 0 points as possible. So you have to get the lowest score, but if anybody in your lineup scores 0 points, it counts as, I believe, 20 points.
What format is this golf league? Is it redraft? Is it dynasty?
It's redraft. It's a redraft league. But my buddies from the TH Fantasy podcast, which is kind of like the sister podcast to Football Absurdity, they run it, and it's a lot of fun. You get guys like my stud last year was Savion Williams, because Savion Williams would get like 1 carry and 1 target a game for like 4 yards. It's like perfect, just right there on the hole. So yeah, it's I'll play whatever format if you want me. If it's like, just tell me the format, I'll play it.
Yeah, because I've built plenty of DFS lineups for golf in DraftKings, but I've never thought to play in a golf redraft league. That's something I'll consider seeking out.
Yeah, so not a golf like fantasy league. I did that a long time ago. It's called Golf League because it's a fantasy football league. It's a fantasy football. I was unclear. It was a fantasy football league where the goal is to get as few points as possible. And if your guy scores 0, you get 20 points out of them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. That makes more sense now.
I was unclear. Yeah. I realized, I played fantasy golf back in the day. Don't bother.
Yeah, I was wondering where Savion Williams came in, where I thought are we talking about a charity tournament or something?
Oh, no. That's my fault. I did a bad job of explaining it. But yeah, like going back to my home league. It was like we had chaos. We called it chaos settings for a long time because the goal of it was that you couldn't just pull a magazine off the rack and draft straight out of it. You had to actually think. So like it was what was it? It was 2 PPR, 2.5 PPR, but receiving yards were worth half as much as rushing yards. Touchdowns were 8 points. It was all this stuff so that all the settings were bizarre and you couldn't just pull one off the rack. So like I said, just give me the league and I will I'll be there.
Very nice. So as you're making your next pick, I'll also point out that McGill Madrid 1005 says good value for Teteroa McMillan. I try not to call him Tet because he said before he doesn't like it. So I'm just trying to be respectful of the man. Teteroa McMillan went at the 502 by Smet Boy, which went ahead of Emeka Ibuka and Light McConkey, but also went behind T. Higgins, Jamison Williams, and Mike Evans. So for a Scott Fishbowl format, Jeff, is this still good value for Teteroa McMillan?
I think so. I think one of the things that people tend to get a little bit like over enthusiastic about, and one of my targets for this round, which got taken, Christian Watson, is evidence of that, is they get too focused on the big play bonus when there is a bonus for first downs. There's extra points there to be had. And a guy like Teteroa McMillan, he's a first down machine. He is the offense for all intents and purposes. So I have absolutely no problem with that there. I personally think it's huge value in the 5th round for McMillan, just because we've got guys that are being pushed up. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to go big play sicko mode. Alec Pierce here. I'm having faith that he'll be healthy.
I am having faith that he'll be healthy as well until he shows that he's not, because I try to make this point clear on pretty much every live show I do. Players are not actually injured until they are, and that goes for Alec Pierce as well. Even though I did just say that I'm pretty sure the offense is going to revolve around Tyler Warren, Alec Pierce still has to catch the deep ball from somebody, and that's a damn good wide receiver 3 to have.
Yeah, and they traded Michael Pittman to make Alec Pierce their world, basically, in the wide receiver room, because it's him, Josh Downs, and a whole lot of nothing. And I've been burned enough times by Josh Downs to not trust it. But I loved Alec Pierce during the pre-draft process. He proved me wrong for a couple years, but he's come storming back. So I'll believe in the kid.
So it's interesting to hear you say that you're not as high on Josh Downs as you are Alec Pierce, where pretty much my whole team here at the Fantasy Football Network, except for me, loves the value of Josh Downs this year, believing that he's just going to fill the Michael Pittman role. I still have doubts about that because I don't think Downs is as good as Pittman, and I think this is going to be another tight end heavy situation. Like I mentioned, the Packers and Bills as two big examples. I think the Colts are going in that direction as well, with Warren being, first round draft capital. So, but I think I have to agree with you on the Alec Pierce point, though. But does Josh Downs still hold good low-end wide receiver 2 value at most?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna get targets. He's the number 3 target in this offense. But I do have to push back on he gives up, I just looked it up, 7 inches and almost 50 pounds to Michael Pittman. I don't think he's going to be playing the same role as that Pittman did. I just think that Downs year after year is I don't want to say a trap, but he's very much a better in July than in October play, because people get so excited about him. And this might be the year that I'm wrong about him, but I haven't seen much that makes me excited about Josh Downs. I mean, sub 175 receivers always get me a little bit itchy, just because, do I know that you're going to stand up to the NFL game, right? And that's what makes me a little bit antsy about Josh Downs, especially taking the Michael Pittman role, because Michael Pittman's a huge guy. He's bigger than some tight ends, and you're just going to let this little guy take over. I'm a little bit iffy on that point.
Yeah, so as you're making your next pick, I also should mention that I did not realize that Josh Downs was actually a smaller wide receiver. I don't know why. I thought he was like 6 feet and 200 pounds or something like that. I always thought he was a bigger guy. 5'9", 171. He's actually about the same size as me. That's how tall and how much I weigh. Not that I have the athleticism to play in the NFL. Don't get it twisted.
No, but I mean, a lot of people... people get excited without realizing, I'm not you have to be this big to play in the NFL, right? But there are size limitations that come into play. It's simple physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. If you don't have a lot of mass, you're going to get a lot of force licked upon you by defenders. And, the smaller guys, I just tend to stay away from a little bit. Like, I get antsy if a guy's under 185, probably would be where I start to get a little bit iffy at wide receiver. Just because you're going to get blown up. I'm sorry. It's just the thing that is going to happen to you.
So as you're making your next pick, I will say that it sounds to me like you are completely out on Tutu Atwell being a receiver for the Dolphins.
We'll just be kind here and say yes. I'm not enthusiastic about Tutu Atwell. We'll just say that. He's a little too small. It's just one of those things that when you're looking at players, right, you got to have a process. If your process is right, if your process is wrong, whatever, there'll always be outliers to every process. But size, especially at wide receiver, is something that I'm gonna chop off a lot of guys like that.
Guys of with that size, typically what that tells me is that they got some speed that NFL scouts, I think, put too much emphasis on in today's game, where I think there's a lot of guys like a John Ross type of player that scouts love to drool over those guys, but staying healthy and actually having more skills than speed is the other issue that we see as well. Not that I'm saying guys like Josh Johnson, Tutu Atwell don't deserve to be starting as like a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, but I think that's definitely something to keep in mind for who we're drafting in this format, or pretty much all fantasy football formats, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that it was football guys back in the day. I used to listen to oh man, I'm completely blanking on him. He's the guy that made me basically fall in love with fantasy football. Sigmund Bloom. He would talk about the assumption of rational coaching, right? Where you assume that these guys aren't getting stars in their eyes about things. You assume that they're 100% rational at all times, but they're human. They're not. You see a guy run, you mentioned John Ross, sub 4.3 speed or whatever he was at. And you just picture only the good things, what he can do in your offense. And you don't think about that, when rubber hits the road, the guys on the defense are getting paid to blow him up. And, there are, like I said, obviously exceptions. Like I had people rubbing Tank Dell in my face till Tank Dell's leg exploded, blocking, but it's just one of those things where I will bet against the smaller guy pretty much every time in the NFL. And, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but I feel like I'm right more often than I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to take an educated guess on the subject, it's certainly not a bad one to take, where unfortunately what happened with Tank Dell is that he was the victim of friendly fire, where his own teammate went right into his knee and blew up multiple ligaments. I'm reading here as of 10 days ago that his outlook is becoming more positive, but I would be very surprised if he had a consistent role going forward in this offense behind Nico Collins, because the Texans had to go draft 2 wide receivers last year for a very good reason, between Jaden Higgins and then Jalen Noel. But that they still have to figure out their depth as well, between Xavier Hutchinson likes to steal some work from time to time, and then they're going to have to figure out if Justin Watson has a role, if you even knew he was on the damn team, for crying out loud. But yeah, and then Dalton Schultz is still there as the top pass-catching tight end. So Tank Dell having a role, I don't even think I'd take him in the last round.
No, I wouldn't. I have no interest in taking any sort of Tank Dells. And also I did know that Justin Watson was there only because I finished up my rookie roundup a little late. I gave myself some grace this year. And I finished it up with the AFC South. So I just looked at the wide receiver depth chart in Houston to talk about Lewis Bond, which Lewis Bond is certainly a guy who was drafted. That's all I can say about him. He was perfectly fine.
Classic Mike in the comments is calling you a height supremacist at this point, but it's more than height. It is still more than height. It's also weight as well. Size definitely matters in the NFL, but it is not everything.
I am a weight supremacist. If you give me like a little MJD guy, I'm all in. Trust me, I'm all in on that sort of stuff. I'm a weight supremacist, which doesn't sound much better. Weight. I need to clarify that. Weight. There we go.
So Classic Mike also says that I have Jenny from The League on as a guest. I still need to watch that show. I haven't seen an episode of The League. Have you watched that show yet, Jeff?
Oh, I watched it way back in the day. Like when it was on, it was, it was kind of appointment viewing, but a lot of it doesn't hold up, we'll say. Rainn Wilson talking about they couldn't make The Office today. They could. They may not have been able to make The League today.
Yeah, TV shows like that in the 2000s going into the 2010s with some of the language diction and ways they phrase stuff today. Yeah, I can see it. It's a different time. That's definitely for sure. Coming back to a comment that Classic Mike also brought up, Quinshon Judkins in the 7th round. Typically when we do Friday mocks on this channel here with Classic Mike and oftentimes Kendall VanDerBilt and maybe sometimes a guest lately. Typically, Judkins goes in the 5th round. So Judkins in the 7th, I got to scroll up a bit on my screen to see where he went. He went behind Travion Henderson, Javonte Williams, Scadaboo, ETN. So he's going behind a lot of really talented running backs where I don't see how Judkins doesn't get high volume in this Cleveland Browns offense, Jeff. So what do you think about Judkins' value right now? Is this great value for Scott Fishbowl?
Absolutely. I mean, he is going to be the only, he and Fannin are going to be the only functional parts of that offense, if we're being honest. And Hawks for Life 1 took both of those guys. So I'm really excited to see his Shadur Sanders and Deshaun Watson round 13 and 14 picks. But they're going to be the only functional parts of that offense. It's Dylan Sampson behind him. That's not, we've already seen this show. Quinshon Judkins comes in and he dominates touches. It's a disastrous depth chart. He's pretty much guaranteed to get both the short area work, the touchdowns. He's going to break off long runs. He's pretty much the whole game in town. I think 7th round is a great value for Quinshon Judkins.
So, Jeff, I'm so glad you brought up Dylan Sampson. Please explain to me why there are so many people who think there's hidden value in Dylan Sampson. I don't see it. Where is this coming from?
It's the PPR scam back aspect of it. Like, oh, he could, maybe he's not the best. Maybe he's not the best runner, but maybe he'll catch a bunch of balls. Well, okay. That role in the NFL is mostly disappearing, if we're being honest. There's not a lot of PPR scam backs like the Theo Riddick, JD McKissick. Those guys are fewer and further between than you've seen a lot lately. So the idea that you're going to turn value out of a PPR scam back does make me a little bit iffy. And I think that's where a lot of the hype around him comes in.
You're certainly not wrong. I had to think about that for a bit as you were answering that part. You're not wrong about these PPR scam backs starting to disappear in today's NFL. I'm going to make my next couple of picks here, not necessarily going for PPR value, but I don't mind Woody Marks as a secondary option behind David Montgomery, who may or may not be the same running back that he used to be. But then at the same time, I figured, why not? Let's take a shot on a Colby Parkinson in case he gets more volume than expected in the Rams offense. But so getting back to PPR scam backs in the running back position, most running backs, when they catch the football on a check down or whatever, if they happen to be open, most of them don't really get anywhere after the catch. Like, they might get lucky if the defense forgets to cover them, but like, I don't even like Chase Brown as a pass catcher in that Cincinnati Bengals backfield, even though I've had people yell at me, oh, he's like a top 5 pass catching running back in the league. Yeah, but who gives a shit? Because it doesn't really add up to much if he's not getting any volume on the ground, because I think the NFL is kind of circling back to becoming more run-centric, where people are still caught up on quarterbacks throwing for 4,000 yards. Yeah, but teams are running the ball more, because running the football is how you win games in today's NFL. Is my observation right about that, Jeff?
Well, I think it's a response to the 2 high safeties and kind of going more nickel too. And you're spreading teams out. And I think that this tight end revolution we saw last year, which led to guys getting vastly overdrafted in the NFL draft this year, it is switching back to pound the rock, and I think that I am a big proponent of the scam back. It's just the problem is the scam back is disappearing. I've long since said, hey, if you're in a full PPR league, if your guy gets a screen pass and blown up at the line of scrimmage, that's the same as your guy dragging 4 or 5 defenders 10 yards. That's 1 point. I'm in on that sort of thing. It's just the problem is that's the guys who do just that are getting fewer and further between. And if you're drafting to find those guys, you're going to have a harder and harder time, because I learned this the hard way last year. I thought there was a lot of guys that were going to have contingent value on pass catching, and we saw the league change last year. And I think Dylan Sampson is the perfect example of that type of running back.
Absolutely. FF Rabbit Dad in the comments says, I miss JD McKissick. Good sir, you might be the only person I've ever read who misses JD McKissick, because I sure did not when it comes to sniping fantasy points I was depending on for the Washington Commanders.
Oh, I will go to the mat for JD McKissick, Theo Riddick, those type of guys, because I felt like I was getting away with something. Like, oh, you want to have all these good players? Well, guess what? My guy's going to get 5 targets, and for some reason, he'll end up with 10 PPR points, and I got him off the waiver wire.
Everybody got spoiled with Alvin Kamara and James White over the years, so everybody wanted to find similar hidden value with no big names.
That's right. I think that's exactly what happened. Was people were trying to hack their way into a Kamara type individual.
Speaking of Kamara, he just went at the 15-6 by Hawks for Life 1. So he's definitely plummeting in value now that the Saints obviously signed Travis Etienne for 3 years and a lot of big money to be the starting running back for the near future. So with Alvin Kamara going at the 15-6, going behind, guys like Jacobs, Judkins, Gainwell, Price, Tyler Algier, going behind a lot of big names, is there any PPR value left for an Alvin Kamara with ETN presumably in front of him?
I mean, the Saints were very top heavy last year in running back usage when Kamara was healthy, and I think they've just slotted in Etienne as their new Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's just kind of just like hanging around. Like they tried to trade him last year. They're like, Alvin, please, please, man, you understand you are not going to play here. Like, you get that, right? And he's just like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just kind of hang out. And he loves the city, but I don't think he's going to get that much run this year, to be honest with you. I think it's a situation where he just kind of flounders as the true backup to Travis Etienne, where he does a lot of the same stuff that Etienne does, just in a lower ceiling now, which is a shame because Etienne doesn't have that high of a ceiling to begin with either. And I don't know. I'm kind of out on Kamara, which is literally the first time in his career I've been out on him. I was like a day one Alvin Kamara stan. So it hurts me to say this, but yeah, I'm completely out on Alvin Kamara this year.
Honestly, I don't see why anybody would be in on Alvin Kamara at this point anyway, being that, ETN's there. He's presumably going to get a lot more of the workload, but I've also heard that a guy like a Kellen Moore probably could consider having both guys on the field at once, considering that the Saints didn't exactly know what was going on with their wide receiver situation. With Olave being hurt, they had to trade for a Devon Vallée. They traded away, what's his face, to the Seahawks.
Shaheed.
Yes, Rashid Shaheed. So then they go out and they draft Oscar Delp, who we got to find out if he even has a role in this offense with Juwan Johnson in front of him. But with Tyler Shuck throwing the football, I would definitely bet on Kamara having low-end flex value at best, being that Shuck is surprisingly NFL ready. We were making fun of him for being the old guy, but damn, he looks good in this Kellen Moore offense. Kellen Moore knew who he wanted in this guy as quarterback. But so I was going to say Kamara probably, you're not going to draft him as your RB2 anymore, but I could possibly see him being sneaky PPR scam back.
I mean, it's possible he might be the revival of that. But it's NFL teams can't tell you lies at the draft, right? Except for when the Steelers got Mekhi Lemon stolen from them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. We didn't want him anyways." That's the only lie you can tell. And in this year's draft, they went out and they got Jordan Tyson and they got Oscar Delp, which I'm not buying the hype on. But you spent a third rounder on them. It tells me they're probably going to be going towards more 2 tight end sets, 12 personnel. And I think that does preclude having Alvin Kamara on the field unless they're planning on doing weird slot stuff with him, which is a possibility, but he just doesn't have the juice anymore to me. And you could scam your way to some points, but he doesn't, his contingent upside is a Travis Etienne injury to me. That's what his upside is.
That's what it seems like to me, despite losing volume to a lot of the no-name backs that the Saints had last year too, where he was sharing with other guys who, I'm forgetting some of the names that he was sharing volume with, guys that were presumably going to be taking over Kendre Miller, Ty Chandler, Devin Neal. Those guys were getting more volume behind Alvin Kamara, as that was probably the sign that Kamara wasn't playing fully healthy.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. I already feel like I was a year late in getting out on Kamara last year, so I'm gonna let somebody else take care of that. I'm not gonna yuck your yum. I'm just I already ate it and it made me throw up, so I'm good there.
No problem at all. So Kirk Cousins just went at the
Mm-hmm.
18-2. That was something I wanted to get your opinion on as well. So Clint Kubiak has been pretty clear about not wanting to start Fernando Mendoza right away, even as the number 1 overall pick, not wanting to get him killed, where the Raiders offensive line is probably going to be ass again this year.
Yeah.
So is Cousins going to be starting this whole season?
I don't think he's going to be starting this whole season. I think there's going to reach a point where ultimately this is a business and you got to put butts in seats. Like, I understand there's the long-term team building view on the Raiders, like Fernando Mendoza, let him cook for a while, let him bake, let him learn behind Kirk Cousins. At the same time, Kirk Cousins isn't the it factor to put butts in seats. And if you're rolling at like 3-9, headed into the stretch, they're going to give the kid some run. Like, I think that Kirk Cousins probably starts 6 or 7 games, maybe 8, maybe half the season, or just under half the season. But I think the bulk of the starts are going to be made by Fernando Mendoza because it is an entertainment league. Ultimately it is about putting butts in seats, and Kirk Cousins doesn't do that. And he also doesn't at this point in his career win you games. I think they will see what they have in Mendoza, especially because everybody loves the kid. Like, he's a corny dude, but he's authentically corny. So everybody's in on him. So, he's already a fan favorite without even touching the field,
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, I don't think anybody is expecting the Raiders to be a good football team again this year. Even with the Max Crosby trade, that what happened, and now what happened with the Ravens was a pretty shady thing to back out on. But even then, that's not going to help their team get that much better. So I don't see the Raiders being a good offense at all, too. But this is definitely going to be a bit of a struggle this year as they're transitioning into figuring out who the hell they want to be post Pete Carroll.
Yeah. And that at the same time, it's like, to that point, that you're not going to be a Kirk Cousins team. That he's not the future here. So you're going to see what you have in the kid because you spent the number 1 overall pick on him. You got to figure out what's going on there sooner or later.
And now comes the part where I have to figure out who do I want my last pick to be on. I think we'll go Cooper Kupp here. Why the hell not? Even though Cooper Kupp's his best days are behind him, but who the hell knows? If Rashid Shaheed plays more special teams, Kupp could get some sneaky PPR value. I'm holding on to false hope there, but in any case, that's at least my team. I went a lot more running back than I thought I would.
Yeah, this is my first mock draft this year. I decided to not mock before I did this, just to kind of like get the lay of the land live, and things would probably be going different.
And I spoiled it.
Let's go. I'll go. Oh, no. I meant I wanted to do this live, like for my first. I am trying to draft Jalen Wright, but I'm clicking the wrong button because I'm an old man. There we go. All right. 100% contingent upside on Devon Achane getting hurt. That's the only reason for that pick.
Devon Achane definitely played through a lot of he was just the definition of banged up when it comes to he was playing through a sprained ankle. I think he also had a shoulder injury too. He is going to be that Dolphins offense this year, and we'll have to see how long that lasts.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a gamer. Rob Gronkowski. Good bit there, drafting Rob Gronkowski in the 20th round. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Malik Willis for like, he's a fun guy to watch play, but I really feel like there was a lot of scheming him up in Green Bay, and we'll see if they can continue that. But Bobby Slowick is their PFF Bobby is their OC. So I'm not super enthused about that.
Gosh, yeah, I forgot that Slowick is there too. That is I mean, I loved his dad as defensive coordinator for the Bears back in the day, but yeah, Bobby Slowick Jr. just has not shown to be pretty good at the OC role at all. He mismanaged that Houston Texans offense to the point where they just had to move on from him. And I don't think that the Dolphins believe in their team either. I think they're going to find a way to finish last place behind the Jets in the division, and 2027 seems like the year. I would not be surprised to see them take a quarterback in how quarterback rich that draft is going to be, to sit behind Malik Willis and then hope that he's the future. Because Quinn Ewers ain't it, people.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers really no good. And I really honestly think that the getting the number 1 pick is the only way that the Dolphins are going to get their choice, because if any other team finishes ahead of them in the standings with the number 1 pick and it's not the Jets have 3 first rounders. The Jets aren't picking outside the top 5. The Jets can just package everything to move up 4 spots to take the number 1. So if they want their choice of quarterback, they have to finish last, because any other team is just going to trade their picks to the Jets. It's just what's going to happen.
100%. Because, Geno Smith seems like another guy that's just another bridge quarterback that, I mean, Garrett Wilson will get fed, but that's about pretty much all you can expect on a consistent basis. And then they're going to hope they get their guy next year too. Ugh, that's going to be a rough division battling for last.
Yeah, it's going to be the Patriots and Bills potential AFC championship, and then 2 teams going for the toilet bowl.
Love the toilet bowl references every time it gets brought up. So let's review this Scott Fish Bowl draft as well, because I wanted to point out a comment that I didn't get a chance to because we scrolled past it. The 109 getting Jaden Daniels in the 3rd round, and then Ashton Genty in the 4th round. BEA beautiful. So that's Wharf 69's team, that is pointed out by FF Rabbit Dad. Wharf 69 is famous J7483 in the comments here in YouTube. So that I'd say 3rd and 4th round, that's amazing value for Wharf 69 here. So I guess let's just go through his team first. Jeff, I don't know if we'll be able to get around to who drafted the best tonight, but did Wharf 69 draft one hell of a team if this were for real Scott Fish Bowl?
Yeah, he got, what I'm looking at here is not what he did at the top. It's snagging Andrews, Kittle, likely in 8, 9, 10, because he had to take Kittle there if he wanted him. I was eyeballing Kittle there. I decided to stack Prescott with Ferguson. And those 3 guys have a chance in this format, because likely Kittle and Andrews, when healthy, are going to be the number 1 or number 2 targets on all of their teams. I think that's a hell of a move in the middle here that allowed them to shy away from the top end guys that let them build a strong top of the roster, especially with like Genty and Hall. That's 2 top 15 guys. I'm not in on Bucky this year. I think Terry McLaurin is very good to stack with Daniels. I think that's a great call there. But I think it's a solid squad. And then he went all big play guys at the end here with Jacoby Lane, I called him Keon Coleman in the draft. Trey Harris, big play guy. Torrey Horton, big play guy. And he did a good job of stacking up with his quarterback 1, because I'm seeing here he also has Antonio Williams, Rashad White. I think he did a very good job. I think the players I quibble with, if he believes in them, that's him. His strategy is great. What he executed worked out very well. Better than mine.
Well, so I was gonna say, like, the comments definitely love that Rashad White pick in the 13th round, where there's some definite running back by committee value in White being a pass catcher in that backfield. Where I did the same thing with Ja'Cory Krusky-Merritt, thinking he'd get some passes thrown his way too. But honestly, I mean, unless Katron Allen shows a pulse, I don't think JCM is gonna be a great pick even in the 12th round. But he was just the best guy at ADP I could find, so I decided to take a shot on him. But the Commanders backfield makes me sick, so let's get to your team next here. The auto pick at 110 with Drake May, okay, it happens, but
it happens.
I mean, it's not going to happen in the live setting, but in any case, so you don't seem that thrilled with your team, but I still think you got some solid value down here in the double-digit rounds where Omar Cooper, Romeo Doubs, Ricky Pearsall, I love those picks.
Yeah, and Dobbs, and I paired Drake May. I pivoted since I ended up with him. I got Dobbs and Booty, who are going to be the more downfield guys with AJ Brown taking the underneath. So they'll get those kind of scam deep plays there. Omar Cooper was a shot in the dark. Just wanted to see, how things work out there. It was one of those things where in this format, like I mentioned, I'm going to lean wide receiver over running back. And then at the back of the draft, I just took guys with contingent upside on injury, like Coleman, Spears, Tucker, Wright. Those are the kind of guys I'm probably going to end up taking in the fishbowl. is just, hey, if somebody gets hurt, next man up, going to take over the backfield sort of thing. But one of the things I do prioritize in this, because it is a big field, is stacking. So that's why I kind of went Booty Dobbs in the middle there. Dak Prescott, the only like decent priced stack that I was able to pull off with Prescott was Jake Ferguson, because by the time I picked, both Lamb and Pickens were off the board. So if I could have it back, I probably would have gone skip somebody there and taken T-Law in the fourth round, because there was more late value there available, and like Brent Strange, Jacoby Myers, stuff like that. So I don't know. It was a good first shot. I kind of had to pivot in the middle there because of the Drake May pick, but I feel like I executed well what I was trying to do. So.
Yeah, no, I certainly like it. One last question I'll ask you too, as we talk about stacking. Does stacking matter in Scott Fishbowl? Where stacking matters in best ball and DFS, does it matter in Scott Fishbowl here too?
Yeah, it matters at the end. Because your goal is to win it all, right? And if you don't have the ability to maximize your points at the end, you're not going to win it all. Now, Scott Fishbowl does have the like 50% of your points are your weekly scoring plus the stuff at the end. But with the big bonuses, I'm thinking Drake May connects to Kayshon Boutte for a 50-yard touchdown. That's bonuses all over the place. So I think in this year with this type of scoring, I think that there will be a big gap between stackers and not stackers this year, personally, because of the big play. Because if you execute a big play, that's huge points. It's literally video game numbers. That's what they're trying to do. Now, I did Dak Prescott and Jake Ferguson. That's not going to exactly be a world breaker. It's not going to be something crazy. But if I had not tilted and gone Drake May with AJ Brown, that now you're cooking. Or thought ahead and gone George Pickens ahead instead of Tucker Kraft, but then it would have been a whole thing. So I think that stacking does make a big difference, because your goal is to win, right? Nobody remembers who got 500th in the Scott Fishbowl, right? You're just one of the guys that played and you had fun. And if you're trying to win, I think that stacking is very important to a format like Scott Fishbowl.
I like it. I didn't think to stack at all last year, but I think I'm going to try to see if I can do that coming up in about 3 weeks for the Chicago live draft, about a week and a half after 4th of July, something along those lines. So yeah, we'll definitely touch more upon that with another show at this time. But as we're wrapping up tonight's show, ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, I wanted to get a bit personal more than I normally like to on Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. So roughly 7 hours before showtime tonight, this is my 11-year-old cat, my baby girl Hida, that I had to go get sent to go cross the Rainbow Bridge earlier this evening. She had GI lymphoma that was a tough battle to win no matter when we caught it. So I got an ultrasound for her done last Wednesday, which showed the signs of GI lymphoma. But if those of you who have had pets before know that to get a biopsy to confirm these things is a motherfucking fortune, where it's big four figures that is difficult to justify spending the money on just to be told, yeah, it's terminal. So she wasn't eating. She was barely drinking water. I could only imagine how nauseous and sick she was just feeling for several days, possibly a week or two before I had to make that tough decision earlier today. I woke up this morning and she was a lot more vocal than normal as she was switching between hiding spot to hiding spot to hiding spot, just looking to get comfortable, for crying out loud. And she was meowing with a tone that I had never heard before, where I don't think I could recreate it with my own voice. I'll spare you guys that. But at the back of my mind knew that her time was coming. I had about 5 or 6 days to prepare for the inevitable. She was living with just randomly just vomiting and defecating somewhere random in my apartment, which I didn't know what was going on. We had a bunch of blood tests done. We had a bunch of x-rays done. Thousands of dollars later, we don't find anything. And I was getting frustrated, thinking it's just a matter of, okay, maybe it's a behavioral issue. She's mad at me for this. The litter box isn't clean enough. But trying to catch cancer in pets is so difficult to do. And it was a tough conversation to have with the vets, but I think it hurts to say I think we made the right call, because if I selfishly brought her home today, she just would have suffered even more, and it just would have been so much worse for her. So, Hita Beta, rest in peace, baby girl. I love you. I decided to do this show tonight because I didn't want to just stop my life. I am putting on my brave face right now. I'm surprised I'm not sobbing at this point. I'm sure there'll be more of those moments to come, but I just wanted to get that out of the way for you folks, just because this was totally unexpected for today. So that's going to start to wrap up tonight's show. I'd like to thank my guest one more time, Jeff Krisko, for another great episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Be sure to follow Jeff on Bluesky at jeffkrisko.bsky.social. It's the name spelled in his the display tag at the bottom left corner right there. Follow that with bsky.social. You'll find him there. And be sure to subscribe to the Football Absurdity on YouTube, where you can catch Jeff live as well. Jeff, is there anything else that people should know from you?
No, I'm glad you made the decision to do this today. I've been in your shoes before, like I was telling you before. It's extremely difficult. I would say that she would have wanted you to do this, but we both know that cats don't care what you're doing. As a cat owner. And no, just check it out, footballabsurdity.com. I just finished putting up thoughts on literally every drafted rookie for 2026 redraft leagues. I'm working on my projections right now. I'm going to do a sleeper breakout and bust for every team like I do every year. Those will probably kick up in the next couple of weeks, but weekly Football Absurdity podcast. We're doing division by division previews.
Excellent. Footballabsurdity.com, ladies and gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it. Bookmark that in your web browser if you're still a computer guy like me. We're going to wrap up this show tonight. Be sure to tune in next week for another Scott Fishbowl 16 mock draft. If you missed out on drafting with us tonight, be sure to join the Fantasy Football Network Discord server for a chance to grab a spot for next week. We're going to end up having a mystery guest for next week, so you're not going to want to miss that. Be sure to tune in. This has been Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan, signing off. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you next week. Take care.